Going on? Welcome inside another episode of the Red Mile Rundown. We are happy to be back with you after another week of great NHL action. I am your host, Johnny. So alongside me, as always, Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm a little under the weather right now. It's cold season. I probably sound like absolute garbage, but aside from that, things are going pretty good.
Well, you're nice and clear back on this side of the border. How was your trip? Glad to be back, or wish you were still in Arizona here?
No, I definitely wish I was still down there. No doubt about that. No, it was fun. My family we love going down there, and we end up playing some golf and end up going to some good restaurants and trying all kinds of different food. And it's such like an easy place to be in Arizona. Like, just the weather is perfect every single day. The people are really nice. Just everything is great down there. So it was a great trip, but I'm happy to be back north of the border at the same time.
And for any of you listeners that don't know, Robert kind of goes back between Vancouver area and Calgary. So big question of the day for you, Robert. Are you stuck in that snow in Calgary, or are you safe and secure in the nice warm Vancouver area?
I'm in Vancouver, but tomorrow night on Tuesday, we're having something called like a cyclone bomb, which sounds absolutely terrifying. But I guess we're supposed to get like 80-mile-per-hour winds and like 70-foot waves on the Pacific Ocean. I guess it's going to be a mess tomorrow night, so I'm not really looking forward to that. But I am in Vancouver at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what's worse, cyclone or a snowstorm of 10 centimeters of snow. Meanwhile, down in southern Alberta, it is 5 degrees outside, no snow, and the sun is out. So I won't brag too much about where I am at right now. Robert, let's dive into this. We'll give all of our show acclimates and themes at the end of the show, where we can find the show and everything on social media and stuff. We'll do that at the end of the show today. But right now, let's dive into what we saw this past week around the Calgary Flames. We got to go back all the way back to last Monday and Tuesday for the first couple of games of the week. We probably could not have seen two different hockey games between these two. On the Monday night, the Flames welcomed the Los Angeles Kings into the Saddle Dome. Pretty good hockey game, pretty competitive back and forth. Really thought that the Flames had a lot of energy from coming back off of that road trip from the week before. Really thought that they settled in and had a really hard-working game. You saw Backlund score, Huberdeau score, Rooney gets the empty net goal to secure the win. Dustin Wolf records his first ever NHL point on an assist on the Huberdeau goal. And the Flames dispatch of the LA Kings 3-1. Fast forward about 24 hours. And they couldn't have looked more flat. It just looked, as you described it on social media, Robert, like they ran out of gas, and Vancouver just took them to the woodshed for a 3-1 win for the Canucks there. What did you make of those two games and how different that they were? Lots of positives in LA, of course, with no gas, nothing behind them. Not very much take from that Vancouver game.
I think the way I would describe the Flames Kings game is that is like a perfect Calgary Flames win. That's everything that the Calgary Flames need to do to win games this season, they did against the Los Angeles Kings. And when I say that, I mean they played outstanding defense. I thought they did a great job shutting down a lot of grade A opportunities against the Kings. I know they had a couple, and Dustin Wolf was there to stand tall and keep them in it. But it was great defensive play. It was great goaltending, and it was being opportunistic on your chances offensively, because as we've seen over the last month here, this is a really bad offensive team. They don't generate a whole heck of a lot of high danger chances. So when they do, they have to score. And that's exactly what they did against the Kings. You know, Huberdeau had that breakaway, a really, really nice goal by him. Like, they have to score on those opportunities because they just don't generate much. So, you know, between the defensive play, the goaltending, and being opportunistic, I thought it was a perfect Calgary Flames game for this iteration of the team right now.
And speaking of perfect game, I thought that going back to that Monday game, Amazon Prime, I thought that was a perfect broadcast. Not a lot of time spent on this. Just wanted to give a nice shout out to Amazon. The work that they did, that was a really good product. Very informative intermissions. They used their time very wisely when it was between whistles. Loved the banter of the play-by-play and color guys and how they did. John Forsland calls a really good hockey game. What'd you make of that Prime broadcast? Because I loved it from start to finish. Ed Van Burke with great intermissions. The Mark Messier segment was really, really good as well. What'd you make of that broadcast?
Yeah, it was awesome. And like, we as Flames followers and Flames fans, I mean, we only watch Sportsnet broadcast. Sportsnet has a monopoly on Calgary Flames games ever since they took over the contract from TSN back in the day. So all we know is Sportsnet. Like, and like on Sportsnet Plus these days, you can't even choose which broadcast you want to watch anymore. You have to watch the Sportsnet broadcast. So, for better or for worse, we're stuck with Sportsnet. So it was such a nice change of pace just to get something different. That was number one. And then number two, like you said, like the Amazon broadcast was like flawless. Like, it was so good. I thought like the picture quality was really good. The sound was incredible. The sound was like, and I pointed that out on social media. I clipped the Amazon broadcast, like a goal call from there, and then one from a Sportsnet broadcast. It sounds completely different. They get the crowd way more into it, and I loved it. That was great. And like you said, the intermissions were really good. Like, they actually had Calgary ties, and all the stories were about Calgary and the hockey community. They had featured like a couple different rinks that are in town and talked about some different hockey associations. Like, it was just really cool. It was really well done. Forsland is arguably the best play-by-play guy in the NHL right now. Even like something small like their video footage, like their aerial footage of the city was all new. It was all from like literally the week before the broadcast. Whereas like Sportsnet, I find a lot of their aerial footage is from like a long time ago. Like, you'll see like the bow is still under construction in some of them. Like, it's crazy. So it was just nice to see like a modern, different viewpoint, like a different approach to a broadcast. And I know it sucks because a lot of people don't have Amazon Prime and they can't watch the game. So like that aspect of it really stinks. But I just think from a broadcast perspective, they did an outstanding job. And I actually hope that, or I wish that they had more than 5 of those broadcasts this year, because they absolutely killed it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I'm an Amazon Prime guy, so I already had it and I loved it and I want more of it. And that's greedy on my part, but hey, it's my podcast too, so I can be greedy here. Let's fast forward here and talk about the last Flames game. They've had the entire weekend off. They're back at practice on a Monday, but they just coming off probably, I don't want to call it the best game of the season, but it was a really methodical game from my vantage point, where they did enough. They were good enough to win this hockey game, and they got the saves when they needed to get the saves in a 2-0 win over the Predators. Dustin Wolf, his first career hat-trick, first career shutout. Would have been impressive if he got a hat-trick. First career shutout for Dustin Wolf. He looked really good in this hockey game. The Flames struggled at times to get a lot going on the inside in this hockey game. A lot of outside play. But they did the same thing to the Predators. They kept them to the outside. We're allowing the Predators to get a lot of high danger opportunities. And this will be high praise for me if you've ever listened to this podcast before. I think Miromanov played his best game as a Flame this season. He scored a goal. He was engaged at both ends, and he wasn't a leaky sieve in the defensive end. What did you make of that hockey game, Robert? Your thoughts on Wolf's shutout and whatever else came to mind here as you watched the Flames beat the Predators?
Yeah, honestly, pretty similar thoughts to you. I thought they had a really difficult time creating offense and just making plays in general. Like the first 2 periods were like, they were pretty hard to watch. It was a boring hockey game. Nashville was terrible. They're one of the biggest surprise stories for me in a negative way this season. I mean, obviously they're in last place in the standings, but just watching them play against the Flames, they look nothing like they did last year. They look nothing like that team that made it to the first round of the playoffs and pushed Vancouver. Like, I thought Stamkos had a brutal game. Like, Marchessault was terrible. It was really bad from a Nashville perspective, but the Flames ended up taking advantage of it, which you have to give them credit for. And what more could you say about Dustin Wolf, man? Like, he should have had the shutout against the Kings. That no goal call, to me, it looked like the puck crossed the line, but it was by like an inch or like a centimeter. Like, he was so close to making that save and having 2 shutouts in a row. But he has been a gigantic difference maker for this team, and we saw that against Nashville. Outside of Wolf, I didn't think there were too many guys that had like outstanding performances. I thought the whole team was just solid. I would definitely agree on Miromanov. That was by far his best game of the season. Arguably, maybe his best game as a Flame so far. He scored that really nice goal to kind of kick things off and get the momentum back going in Calgary's favor. But yeah, overall, it was a bit of a boring game until the 3rd period, but Dustin Wolf stole the show, and what more can you ask from him? That kid has just been phenomenal this year.
That game reminded me, and this just came to my brain as you were talking there. The game reminded me of the mid-90s, where it was Jacques Lemaire Wild and the Lou Lamoriello Devils going head-to-head, where there's nothing going on because that's how those two teams played. One goal wins the hockey game because that's how it happens when these two teams shut one another down. That really reminded me of what happened on Friday with the Predators. That is a god-awful hockey team, and I am very glad I'm not doing a Predators podcast because I would have nothing positive to say. That team went out and spent $100 million this offseason on contracts, and for me, it looks like it's just a group of guys on the ice. It doesn't look like a team. It doesn't look like a unit. They're waving Fabro and they need defensemen. They're not dressing their kids, even though they want to play their kids. I don't understand what's going on for Nashville, and the Flames took advantage of whatever that was as they prepare now. As we move on from that game and prepare for this week, the Flames did what they needed to do to win that hockey game. They win 2 of 3 last week. They put themselves in a position here to have a very positive couple weeks in a row now as they, 4 of 6 points on that road trip, 4 of 6 points at, the next week after that road trip. So that's back-to-back weeks of really good hockey, good enough to have a positive week over a negative week, and allows set themselves up for another week where they've got some really, really high, tough opponents coming in. They've got a hardworking Islanders team coming in here on Tuesday night to start off the week. What are you looking forward to this week, Robert? Most of all, can the Flames keep it going against this Islanders team? Do you expect to step back after the time off here? What's your expectations for the Flames heading into this new week here?
I don't know. I think we should probably just expect to see kind of what we've been seeing the last couple of weeks here, and that's a team that struggles to generate offense, a team that plays a pretty boring, structured, defensive style of game, and one that's just going to work their ass off and probably have to rely on Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar to make saves to keep them in it. I mean, what we've seen the last couple of weeks is kind of getting off to bad starts, very little sort of creativity in offensive zone production, but they're a team that they work hard and they stick to Ryan Huska's structure. And I think we got to give praise to Ryan Huska this year because I think he identified early on that like this is not going to be a very good hockey team, and the only way that they're going to be competitive is just if they buy in to a defensive system and a certain way to play the game as a team, as a group. If every single player in that dressing room can buy into the system, they will have success. If one or two guys don't buy in, they think, hey, I'm better than this. I'm above this. I should be putting up points and I should be producing, and I'm going to sacrifice defense because of it. Then it's not going to work. But so far it's working. And I think you just got to give Huska a ton of credit for getting everybody on board, having a cohesive team and just buying into the system he's preaching. So I'd say that's probably what I'm expecting. I'm really looking forward to hearing Adam Fox get booed again. That's always a ton of fun. We'll see that on Thursday night when the Rangers come to town. And then one other thing I want to point out here about the schedule.
Yeah.
The Flames, they play the Wild on Saturday. It's a 2 p.m. puck drop on a Saturday. I went through the schedule. You're going to be
disappointed on this one.
Yeah. I went through the schedule this year, and I think it was either there's only 4 or 5 8 p.m. starts on a Saturday night at the Saddledome this year. And I think that is just totally bizarre. I don't like that. There's a lot of early starts on Saturdays this year, or the Flames are out on the road. My personal favorite games to watch are those Saturday nights, 8 p.m. puck drop. I just like it. Just gets like your blood going, right? Like that's time to watch Calgary Flames hockey. And there's barely of any of that on the schedule this year, which pisses me off. So, but that's kind of what I'm looking forward to this week. How about yourself?
I'm not looking forward to the afternoon games because the Flames play absolute garbage on afternoon games. And I don't understand these Western Coast teams in the Mountain time zone or Pacific time zone that have to play these midday games because of an out East opponent. I don't like it. It's stupid. It throws body clocks off and you don't get the best hockey games. You saw the Flames in Buffalo were able to overcome that a little bit as that game went on, but that was just an awful start in Buffalo. Just body clocks are up. You just don't get a good product when you have these afternoon games with these early Western. Like, leave those 2 p.m. afternoon starts for the New Yorks and the New Jerseys and the Philadelphias, where it's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon out there and they're used to it, that time zone, that time frame. I don't understand it with these Western Conference teams. That's just a little pet peeve of mine. Let's talk about how these Flames are winning these games because they have 3 teams coming in this week who you could argue come at you in three completely different ways. You got your Islanders are going to try to outwork you, which is much like the Flames are trying to do. You have the high-powered Rangers, who are Stanley Cup picks across the league for a lot of people. And you have a Minnesota team that's kind of top-heavy, but they're quick. They have a lot of speed to their game and can beat you in a couple of different ways here if you let them. The common factor of all three of these teams is they're going to get goaltending, and that's, again, what you're going to get from the Flames. They've been winning hockey games these last few weeks via the defense and how the goaltender has been playing. When they stick to their structure, when they're playing with how Ryan Husk wants them to play, they're being successful at it, and they're absolutely giving themselves an opportunity to win. You add in your over 900 save percentage and goals against average are under 3. A lot of success comes to the Flames when they play their hockey game, and that's how they're going to have to win. Robert, for you, what's the most important part to continue this success with this defense and this goaltending? You're not going to get a lot of offense from this group, so you have to have this defensive structure. Is this sustainable for Calgary in your eyes?
Ooh, I don't know if it's sustainable because, Dustin Wolf is a young goalie. To expect him to play at this level the entire season might be a little unrealistic. They're going to have to start scoring at some point because, you can't hold teams in the NHL today to 2 or fewer goals every single night. And that's what the Flames have to do right now in order to win games or at least pick up points. Like, they're having such a hard time scoring more than 2 goals a game. So I don't really think that's sustainable. But I really like the defense that they're playing. They're taking advantage of their good goaltending right now. Like, I was going through some of the numbers just to see, like, is it all goaltending? Is it a mix of goaltending and defense? Is there some luck involved? Like, what's going on here? And based off of what I've kind of come up with the numbers is pretty much that the goaltending is carrying this team right now. But at the same time, the Flames are also doing a good job of limiting high danger chances. So, like a 5-on-5, they're 10th in the NHL in high danger chances against per 60 minutes played, which is pretty good to be a top 10 team in that stat. That's fantastic. But then, like, you look at shot attempts, they're per 60, they're 24th. Scoring chances, 23rd. Expected goals against, 19th. So it looks like they're allowing a lot of shots kind of from the perimeter, allowing a lot of shots to get through to Dustin Wolf, but they're really limiting those high dangers. And I think that's been a big reason why there's been so much success goaltending-wise so far. And, like, when you take a look at some of the goaltending stats, like, as a team, the Flames have the best 5-on-5 save percentage in the NHL, which, like, if you would have told us that at the beginning of the season, I don't think anybody would have believed you. That's a pretty remarkable stat. And, like, when you kind of dive deeper into Dustin Wolf here, so 62 goalies have played at least 200 minutes this season. Wolf is in the top 20 in goals against average, save percentage, high danger save percentage, and goals saved above expected. And the goals saved above expected, he's 9th. He's top 10 in the NHL amongst those 62 goalies. So to me, it's the team is doing a good job kind of avoiding getting those high danger chances against. Dustin Wolf is standing on his head, and Dan Vladar has been solid. Like, he's pretty much top 25 in all those same categories except high danger save percentage, where he's actually 56, which is actually kind of interesting. But they're going to need the offense to get going here because you can't rely on Wolf to save you and bail you out every single night. It's just not sustainable. This league is too good. There's too many talented shooters. There's too many offensively gifted teams where you can, just rely on your 21, 22-year-old goalie to steal you games. It can't happen. So overall, kind of just to sum all that up, the goaltending's carrying them right now, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple more stats I'll just throw in there. Goals against per game, they're 8th in the NHL this season. I think a lot of that has to do with goaltending, and then goals against in general, they're 9th. So they're a top 10 defensive team in terms of goals against, but I really think that's mainly because of goaltending. Do you kind of see it the same way, or am I not giving them enough credit on the defensive side of the puck?
The only credit I'll give to the defensive side of the puck is they're playing the structure that keeps the play to the outside to limit those high dangers, as you put it. And that's going to allow your goaltender to have higher success rates when he's stopping these pucks, allowing for that, .950 save percentage in a game against the Nashville Predators, or not against the LA Kings, to have your shutout against the Nashville Predators. Those kind of opportunities are being taken advantage of by Dustin Wolf. But then when he's counted on, and same with Vladar, when he's counted on, for the most part, they're getting the saves that they shouldn't be getting and allowing this team to have success. I think you're spot on there. Those numbers are very, very damning, very complimentary, depending how you want to look at them, from what angle. And it allows these goaltenders to have a lot of confidence in their game. And when you have confident goaltending and you're allowing them to see these shots and you're keeping them to the outside, you're going to have a lot of success. The flip side to that is that's only half the game. That's only half of the job that you need to do. You need to take the momentum that you're getting from these goaltending performances and turn them up ice and find ways to give your goaltender run support, something that we have noted over multiple episodes now that the Flames just are not doing. Before I give my take on this, Robert, I want to throw a question at you that I know I didn't prepare you for beforehand, but this will give you an authentic answer for. Is fixing the offense as simple as fixing special teams?
No, I don't think so. I think they're struggling at 5-on-5 as well as the power play. And it's not necessarily a matter of just getting bounces too. Like there's a lot of times where teams will go through these runs where they're playing really well, but they just can't put the puck in the back of the net for some reason. Like they're just not getting those bounces. That's not really the case with the Flames right now. For me, it's just they're just not generating anything at 5-on-5 right now. You watch their game, it's just very dull, lacks creativity, lacks sort of speed and talent. Mm-hmm. It's pretty uninspiring play in the offensive zone. Obviously, if you can get the power play up in that like 20% range, clearly that's going to help because the power play is running at like 7% since October 19th. Like it's just been dreadful. So that would clearly help things, especially for a guy like Andrei Kuzmenko who relies on the power play to produce. But I think it's deeper than just special teams. I really think it's kind of a holistic thing. It's 5-on-5, it's power play, it's penalty killed. It's pretty much everything. They're really struggling to produce right now.
I like that answer. I like that a lot. Here's where I'm going to go on it. I think fixing the special teams is a start to fixing your offense. You get these guys working the power play and taking advantage of these opportunities. You're going to get them starting to feel a little bit more confident in their game. You look at a guy like Nazem Kadri, who is struggling mightily 5-on-5, and I apologize to all the Kadri lovers out there. Apparently, there's a portion of this fan base where he can do no wrong, and that's fine. That's your view on the player, but he hasn't been good 5-on-5. He's actually struggled quite a lot 5-on-5. Robert went through the numbers last episode about his game. He's got multiple articles on flamesnation.ca about Nazem Kadri. A guy like Nazem Kadri, if he can get his confidence back going on a power play, maybe that can carry over to 5-on-5, where he has the confidence to, I can carry this puck forward and create an opportunity. And then Kuzmenko can follow along with him on that. So I think it does start with the special teams, but I'm with you that it doesn't fix the offense. It's a door, a gateway to help fix your offense, to help win these hockey games. Eventually, you're going to have a goaltender give up 4 in a game. Eventually, you're going to have a goaltender have a sub 900 save percentage over the course of one hockey game. It's bound to happen. It's going to happen to you down the line here. And in order to overcome that, you need to have offense to help offset those issues and score 3 or 4 goals in a hockey game to get yourself a point or to win a hockey game. And I just don't see that from the Flames, that they have that ability. All due respect to the guys that are rolling, like a Connor Zary, who's playing very well right now, Blake Coleman, who's playing very well right now, Matt Coronado, who's playing really good right now. If you only have 2 or 3 guys pulling on the wagon, it's not going to go as far or as fast as you have everyone pulling on that wagon. For me, it starts with the power play. It starts with getting that confidence going on these guys and hoping it carries over to 5-on-5. Because I think, and this is my opinion, fixing a power play is a little easier than fixing 5-on-5 play, because you can simplify the game on a power play with these guys, because you have that extra man that you should be able to, should is the key here, should be able to set up in the zone, should be able to put a game plan together and have some success on it. It's just, how bad the special teams have been for the Flames has really been a detriment, and they're winning despite those special teams, the special teams game, and that's very rare to see a team find 2 wins in 3 games and never win the special teams battles. Because not only are they not scoring on the power play, they're giving up shorthanded opportunities almost at the rate that they're getting opportunities to score on the power play, and it's quite unnerving at times to watch here. Anything more to add to the power play offensive conversation here, Robert, before we move on here?
Yeah, I mean, another thing too about like getting the power play going is maybe it could start to build some confidence too, especially with guys like Huberdeau, Kuzmenko, Kadri. I think that could probably maybe play like a big role in maybe getting them back to being good 5-on-5 players again. So, from that perspective, I think that makes sense. I'll just kind of like just add like a little bit of context here. So the Flames power play is 30th if you look at it from the start of the season.
Surprised it's that high.
Well, it's not if you take a look at from October 19th till now. It's 32nd, so not very good. The penalty kill is 27th, and when you take a look at like the goals for percentage on special teams, so say the Flames have been on the ice for 20 goals total on special teams, whether that's power play or penalty kill, 70% of them are going in favor of the opposition. So it'd be like 14-6 in terms of the opposition. So it's been really bad. So the special teams have been dragging them down. They're one of the worst offensive teams in the league. They're 25th in goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. They're 23rd in goals for. They're 24th in goals for per 60 minutes played, just in general, not 5-on-5. So you take all those things into consideration, yet they're still firmly in the first wild card position when you take a look at points percentage. It's crazy. That's how good the goaltending's been. Mm-hmm. That's how good they've been defensively, keeping goals out of their net. Because if it wasn't for the hot start and good goaltending over the last month here, last 3 weeks, this team would be in the basement of the NHL standing because they're not playing great as of late. I'll just give some more stats here. I'm sure people are loving this.
I do.
Goals for, this is at 5-on-5. Goals for per 60, 25th. Expected goals for per 60, 24th. High danger Corsi percentage, 23rd. Shooting percentage, 23rd. So what that tells me is, like I said before, it's not that they're unlucky or something. They're like that bad at generating offense and that bad at putting pucks into the back of the net right now. So I don't know how they fix it. I don't know if it's just this is a talent issue, like it's just the players on your roster, they're just not good enough. I have a hard time believing that because we've seen in the past with this group that there are times where they can be a pretty decent offensive team. Like Kadri was really good, game 60 and on, or for his last 60 games last year. Kuzmenko was really good. Sharon Govich was good. So if those guys can get their act together and they can get their shit going, I really think this team, with the good goaltending, with the defensive structure, if they can just get a little bit of offense, a little bit better special teams, they could legitimately make the playoffs. Because like I said, they're in the first wild card spot and they've been playing like absolute trash lately. So if they can just fix a couple things in their game offensively, watch out. They could potentially make the playoffs, and I don't know if they could win a round, but they could be right there come the end of the season.
It's funny that you go through all these stats that we've laid out and we go through all this conversation, and it boils down to 2 things for me. One, the thing that you thought that was going to be your biggest problem is the goaltending. It hasn't been. It's actually been your best spot on the team.
It's saved them this year. It's crazy.
It absolutely has. And the thing that you thought, okay, we're good. We have the offensive depth. We have wingers that can score. We have playmakers that we can count on with Kadri and Huberdeau. We got some young kids coming up here. We were counting on Jacob Pelche to be a thing. We were counting on Coronado to score 30 goals, and he's been really good, don't get me wrong. But that's been the problem. It's been the one thing that we thought was going to be fine is the problem. And it's absolutely mind-blowing that they're going about this way. If your goaltending falters just a little bit, you're going to be crashing down the standings. But if you can figure out your offense just a little bit, your special teams just a little bit, this is a top 3 Pacific Division team. You can't tell me they can't catch the LAs and the Vancouvers if they're playing like we know that they can play up to their potential. We've seen them have really good hockey games. We saw that on the road trip. Really good hockey games where they controlled large portions of play. When they can play like that or play like they did against LA last Monday, they're a good team. They're hard to beat, and if they can score the extra goal or two a game, get a power play, even get your power play percentage up to 15%. We're not asking for the moon and the stars here. Just make it so that you have, and giving yourself an opportunity to be in these hockey games, you're going to be much further along than what you are right now.
They'd honestly probably have, I was just going to say, they probably have another 4, maybe pushing like 6 points in the standings if they had a power play. Like I really believe that, because I think their percentage is like 7% over the last month. If you bump that up to like 18 or 20, like league average, that's probably like another 4 or 5 goals scored. And they've been playing in a lot of tight hockey games this year.
Yeah.
So the power play literally could be the difference between them, having like an extra 4 or 6 points in the standings right now. It's crazy.
Okay, you say 4 points. If you add 4 points onto the Flames right now, that puts them first in the Pacific Division. That gives them 1 point more than the Vegas Golden Knights if you add 4 points to their total right now. So that's the difference. The small margin the Flames are playing with. They're playing with their food right now, and they're getting away with it. And eventually they're going to have to start taking bites of that food, being the offense, scoring goals here, and winning these hockey games to put themselves in a place to be successful. So this is going to go, in my opinion, will go one of two ways. Either your goaltending is going to come back down to earth a little bit, because it's hard to sustain close to a .950 save percentage for an entire season, or we're going to get some offense because they had too many guys have regressed from last season's opportunities and career years that we saw. Coleman and Sharon Govich had career years. Kuzmenko had a really good finish. Kadri, you mentioned, a really good final 60 games, and I agree with that as well. Pospisil career year, Zari career year last year. All these guys have regressed back to the norm here, and we're hoping that they can find a little bit of that magic again to push this Flames team forward here.
Yeah, and so right now, there's only one player on pace for 50 or more points this year, and it's Rasmus Andersson. He's on pace for 50 points. How knowing that, how is this team even in the first wildcard spot? It's crazy. Like that's terrible. I don't know if there's been an NHL team that's had 0 50-point scores in a season and legitimately push for a playoff spot, but the fact the Flames they're doing it right now is pretty wild.
It would be one thing if you had multiple guys on pace for about 50, but you look at the numbers that you put on Twitter, stuff like that. These guys are on pace for barely over 40. A couple guys barely getting to 38. Like, it's scary numbers if you break it down that way. And Rasmus Andersson should, all due respect, should never lead a team in scoring in any facet of his entire career. And the fact that he's the only guy on pace to reach 50, I retweeted it with a gif of just a big sigh, because I'm just like, what do you do with this? Like, how do you fix that? That's a huge problem for the Flames right now, and they're winning despite of it. That's the most incredible thing about all of this. Despite their offensive woes and not being able to take advantage of power plays, they're winning 2 of 3 hockey games. They're getting 4 of 6 points time and time again, and putting them in this position to be in the wild card spot and fighting for a playoff spot in the Pacific Division. Robert, let's not go too negative the entire show here. So let's throw in a little bit of positivity as well, because we're not trying to sound like we're really down on this team. We've seen them winning hockey games, and we realize that they're winning despite some downfalls here, but there is some positiveness in this Flames organization.
Well, at the same time, though, just like it's the reality of the situation.
True, it absolutely is.
We're not coming on here, being negative for the sake of being negative. It's just like, this is what we're seeing from the team right now. This is how we're gonna break it down. The numbers aren't great. What we're seeing offensively isn't great. So we're going to tell the truth, and we're going to tell it like we see it. We're not going to sugarcoat things. That's one of the nice things about being on this podcast with you is, we're not going to hear from the Flames if we're talking negatively about the team. Yeah. We can kind of speak our minds on here, which I think people would kind of really like and respect. And the thing is too, we've been given tons of praise to Wolf and Huska and the defensive system. Like, we've been given lots of positive praise out there, but at the same time, I think you got to call out things that maybe are a little bit negative when they're actually happening.
it's funny too because people are like, "Don't critique wins," and here we are critiquing some wins. But hey, that's the nature when you're not getting paid by a sports cast and you're not getting paid by the team to talk about this team. You don't need to wear the kids' gloves. Like, all due respect to the job those guys do on things like Flames Talk, really good programs, but they wear the kid gloves because they're being paid by certain people to talk about the team. So we're here to give you the real information and to help form a different opinion than what you're going to get on the radio or on Sportsnet broadcasts, because just sometimes you sugarcoat things too much. People think, oh, this team's winning, that all is good, and all is not good under the Calgary Flames. What is good, though, is both of us have picked a player here who have been a big surprise for us this season. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first on this part here?
You go first.
All right, good. I like it. I changed my answer like 4 times, and Robert can attest to this. He texted me, and I changed the answer before the show. I was diving into some numbers and looking around at who was performing for the Flames above what we thought we were going to get. And I settled on a couple different names, but finally ended up going with a Flame defenseman, a guy who came off of an injured season a few years ago, played 82 games for the New Jersey Devils and looked really good doing so. He came in here with some lower expectations, had an early season injury that kept him out of some preseason games, but has really been a pillar on the back end for the Flames beside Rasmus Andersson. That's Kevin Ball. Kevin Ball is not known to be a flashy player. Kevin Ball is not known to be a defenseman who's going to provide you a ton of offense. He's a defenseman that you put back there that you hope you don't notice. And if you don't notice him, it's a good thing because he's done his job. And he's a shutdown guy. He's played 18 games for the Flames this year, 6 points, which is actually quite remarkable for a player of his game, what he provides for you. He's playing almost 22 minutes a night, and he's at a +5, which you plus minus take how you want, but he's blocking shots. He's got 29 blocks in 18 games. He's over almost 2 hits per game. He's only taken 4 penalty minutes, and he's allowed Rasmus Andersson to be, just talked about Rasmus Andersson being the only guy on pace for 50 points. He's really allowed Rasmus Andersson to take his game to a different level and has been this defensive stalwart back there for the Flames, reliable. You watch late in hockey games, who is Ryan Huska sending over the boards? It's number 7, and he's just provided the Flames exactly what you want from this guy. Craig Conroy took it in the teeth when he traded Markstrom and he brought back Kevin Ball. Got a lot of people asking me, who is this guy? What are we doing here? Why not a flashy guy like Alexander Holtz or Austin Mercer? But he brought back a very good piece, a very useful piece in that trade in Kevin Ball, and Kevin Ball is paying the Flames back in spades. This guy right now, we're stealing his services with the contract that he has right now. Beautiful 18 games from Kevin Ball so far. So for me, he's been the biggest bright spot on this team, and I like it. More Kevin Ball, please. I'd like to clone him. I'd like to have a second one for Mackenzie Weegar to play along the side of, but Kevin Ball is my big surprise for the Flames this year. Who is yours, Robert?
Well, before I get into mine, just a question for you. Where would the Calgary Flames be without Kevin Ball?
Well, if they don't have Kevin Ball, I don't believe Rasmus Andersson has this type of season, and therefore they have no one on pace for 50 points. So I say they're bottom 6, 7 in the league.
I kind of agree with you. Like, I think that's just how important Kevin Ball has been, because
his penalty killing.
His penalty killing has been great, and like you have Anderson, you know what you're going to get from him. You have Weegar, you know what you're going to get from him. After those two guys, and Braden Ball has been really good, but he's like a number 6 on a decent team. Yep. So if Kevin Ball didn't step up and become like a legitimate top 4 defenseman early on this year, the Flames would be in serious trouble.
Yes.
Like who would be taking up those minutes? Who'd be playing on the penalty kill? You know, who would be relied upon for those hard defensive matchups? Like Jake Bean, Tyson Barrie, like
probably look at that a little more of Hanley.
So that wouldn't be good. We would definitely be in the bottom of the standings if that was the case. That's just how good Kevin Ball's been this year. I give him all the credit in the world, man. That guy has been awesome. So that's a great choice by you. Some other guys I was kind of thinking about was, like I just mentioned, Pahal. Just the fact that Pahal's played in every single game this year and hasn't been a healthy scratch kind of says it all.
Yeah.
Because when you think about like, Miramanov's been a healthy scratch, Barry, Bean, Hanley, all those guys are regular healthy scratches, but Bahal's not. And I just think that kind of says it all right there. He's been really good. Another obvious one is a guy like Justin Kirkland, who's come out of nowhere.
Yes.
He's literally the most he's the other guy that you had on your list.
He was I had 3 guys on my list, and he was the 3rd guy.
For good reason. I mean, he's literally the most productive Flame at 5-on-5 this year.
Yep.
Like in terms of points per 60 and assists per 60, like he destroys everybody on this team right now. And he's second on the team in 5-on-5 points. The only guy that's ahead of him right now is Rasmus Anderson. He's tied with Jonathan Huberdeau for 5-on-5 points. I just find that unbelievable. So Kirkland's been great too. But the guy that I'll go with is I'm gonna go like Matt Coronado. I think a lot of people, as a pleasant surprise, I think a lot of people might say to themselves like, well, I don't think he's much of a pleasant surprise. Like, this is kind of what I expected, but I don't really see it that way, because like heading into the season, his second half of the training camp was pretty slow. He makes the team out of camp, but he's a healthy scratch. And even when he did get in the lineup, he wasn't making, a huge impact outside of the Chicago game. And I really thought that he was going to end up playing in the American Hockey League for, probably at least a couple months. And I didn't think that was a bad thing, because I think seeing young players go to the American League and develop is a good thing. I don't think you can really stay down there for too long. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. So
yeah.
And then ever since he's come back up, ever since that Mantha injury, and ever since he's come back up into the lineup, I would go as far as saying he's probably been their best forward since the Mantha injury. And that goes back to the Montreal game. From the Montreal game to now, I think he's been really good. Like, he's been dynamic when carrying the puck, which has probably been like the biggest revelation. Like, he's a really good puck carrier now. He's making plays to his teammates. He's putting himself in position to get that incredible shot off. He's putting up some points. Like, he's got 5 points in his last 8 games, 3 of those being goals. That leads the Flames over those 8 games. All of his underlying numbers, he's above 50%. And heading into the year, I was just like, I don't know if he's totally ready to become a full-time NHLer yet, because I just wasn't totally convinced from what I saw in the preseason early on in the regular season. But he has just completely exceeded expectations for me. If he continues to play at this level and playing on a line with Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman, I could see him scoring at a 20-goal pace from now until the end of the year. I could see him probably being a top 3 scorer on this team. I legitimately think he's been that good. So give him all the credit in the world. The Flames set him down. He was pissed, but he went down there. He took it on the chin. He came back up, and I think he's shown the Flames that they were wrong to do that in the first place. And he's a full-time NHLer now, and he's a good NHLer too. Like, he's a legit top 9 winger in his second year in the league. And I don't know. I guess I'll ask you this question: what do you think Coronado's ceiling is in the NHL right now? Like, based off what you've seen from him this year, like, is this guy, can he score 30? Is he more of a 20-goal guy? Like, what do you think his ceiling is right now?
This will be the cop-out answer, but I think he's right in the middle there. I think this guy could be a 25-ish goal scorer. Maybe some years it's more towards 30, maybe some years more towards 20. But I think if you can get him in that 25 goal range and you add on 25 assists, 30 assists in there, you're looking at a guy who can get close to being a point per game player, in my opinion, on this team. He's going to get more power play time as he gets more comfortable in this league. He's going to be counted on in higher situations as he continues to progress in this league. And he's doing so because he's taken the messages from the coaching staff, from Craig Conroy, even from his line mates. Who better to learn from than Coleman and Backlund how to be a pro? He's taken all of these messages personally and to heart, and he's taking them and he's progressing himself. You can see it before our eyes. This guy's become a better NHLer in the last 2 weeks, and he's been in the previous year and a half. And that's going to allow him to be successful. That's going to allow him to continue to find the score sheet on a regular basis. He's going to allow him to have games like he had in Montreal, where he's scoring game-tying and game-winning goals, where he's doing it in numerous different ways. The sky's the limit for this guy. Continue to work on his game like he has right now and progress how he is. How can he not be an 80-point guy a year up to 92 points? So in that ballpark there's no reason to say he can't be that. Obviously injury aside, anything else that might derail, but a guy's career. But if he continues to play like this, it's hard not to picture him being close to a point per game, if not a point per game player in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, and those are like pretty lofty expectations, but I mean, I wouldn't count the guy out for doing something like that a couple times in his career. I think for me, I would say on average, I could see him scoring between kind of 20, 25 goals and being in that 50, 60 point range as an average. And then maybe for like a couple career years, maybe he goes into the 70 point range, pushes 30 goals. But like the skill set is there, the shot is there. You can tell he's a smart player, and as he continues to get bigger, stronger, faster, I just think he's going to become an even better player than he is right now. So I've been super, super impressed with him. And it's having him on a line with Backlund and Coleman allows Zary to move up the lineup and play center, which I really like. And I think Coronado, he could just be one of the most important players on the Flames for the rest of the season. So big time shout out to him. I've been very pleasantly surprised with him.
And just think, a guy that plays like that, we didn't have high expectations for him this year, but as he grows, your expectations are going to grow, and we might have lofty expectations of the guy, but I wouldn't count Matt Coronado out. He's been really good at that. On the flip side of the coin, and I don't want to use the word disappointment like we have in our rundown here, but we both picked a player as well who's not living up to expectations. He's not living up to what we need them to be part of this Flames team and to help this Flames team be successful over the course of the season. So we each have a player in this category as well. Robert, why don't you go first this time? Who is your player that's not living up to your expectations that you just absolutely need to see more from?
I mean, there were a few forwards to choose from in here. There wasn't a goalie. Yeah. There wasn't a goalie or there wasn't a defenseman that I even really considered for this. For me, it was all the forwards. So out of like a decent size group there, I would probably say Andrei Kuzmenko has been the biggest disappointment for me. Heading into the season, I had completely unrealistic expectations for what this guy could do, or he's just fallen flat on his face. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. But in Vancouver, in his rookie season, he had 74 points. Like as a rookie in the NHL, I know he's an older guy, like at 24 or 25 years old, but 74 points is nothing to scoff at. And then last season he comes to Calgary, finishes the year on an absolute heater, 17 points in his last 11 games. The Flames had the best power play in the league for the last month of the season. He was a major part of it. And this year it just has not gone well for him. He has 9 points in 18 games. Only has one goal. Like how crazy is that? In 18 games, Andrei Kuzmenko, a guy who's that talented, who has that good a shot, and who gets opportunities on the power play, only has one goal. Like that is just not good enough for such a skilled, such a talented guy. And like I said, I honestly think that the major reason why the Flames power play is failing is because of Kuzmenko. Because last year when they were humming on the PP, he was the guy that was driving it. Like the puck went through Kuzmenko and he was playing like that kind of down low spot near the goal line. Yeah. And whether it was, getting passes out front to Kadri or finding a defenseman coming in from the blue line, like he just had this incredible vision, and he was the guy the power play ran through. And so far this year, he's just been a train wreck on the power play. And it's probably the biggest reason why they suck on it so far this year. And then the big thing for me when it comes to Kuzmenko is that he's just not skating at the level he needs to. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing from him, but when I watch Kuzmenko, he's not beating defensemen wide. There's zero separation speed in the offensive zone, whether it's trying to take a puck from the corner to the front of the net or trying to beat a guy around the face-off circle and protect the puck. There's just zero separation speed from him. It's way too easy for defensemen right now to keep up with him. And I think it's just because the acceleration isn't there, the speed isn't there, and I think the skating is really, really affecting his game right now. And I just find with him, it's just a lot of flash. You see a lot of fancy stick handling and the odd fancy pass, but there's just zero substance behind it right now. So I've been super disappointed in Andrei Kuzmenko. There's no reason to believe that he can't get back to his form that he was at the end of last season. Or he was in Vancouver in his first year in the NHL, just because he's that skilled, he's that talented. But so far, 18 games into the year, I think he's been a really big disappointment. He's underwhelmed, unfortunately.
He's lacking for me what I'm going to call a dig-in factor. And what I mean by that is be harder on pucks, do a little bit more to win a puck battle, get in along the boards for a puck battle, come back into your defensive zone and just take a swing through the zone. Make your presence known in that zone. Just a little bit more from Kuzmenko will go a long way here to helping his game go along. I think skating, yes, move your feet, be more engaged in the play. He's been very invisible for large chunks of a lot of games, and you see what Rick Tocchet was talking about last year when he was in Vancouver and being healthy scratch for numerous games at a time, because you're just not seeing enough from him, and you're not asking Kuzmenko to be a Blake Coleman 2.0. You're asking Kuzmenko to be a guy that can be reliable with the puck and back up his line mates and provide a little bit of finish and kind of be a power play quarterback that plays down deep and help distribute that puck a little bit more. He's got one of the better shots on this team as well, and I'm just not seeing him use it. And I don't remember the last time I said, wow, what a shot from Kuzmenko, whether it was a goal or not. You're just not seeing the wow factor from him right now. And it's very, very disappointing. And it goes hand in hand with my pick for a guy not living up to expectations. I could have went Miromanov again and just given him the gears like I had a couple episodes ago. I could have taken the easy road with Huberdeau. We've all done that one the last little while here. I could have taken runs out of numerous guys here, but I go with Kuzmenko's running mate that we have, his centerman. Nazem Kadri, for me, is a huge reason why this Flames offense that we've been talking about all episode long is not up to par, is not playing how he needs to play. You see him get credit for being a bit of a selfish player when he has the puck. He's taking the opportunities. He's trying to drive the net, but he's not doing anything with those opportunities. And there's a couple of numbers that came across, and they're just basic stats, but I think they paint a really good picture. This guy's played 18 games for the Flames this year, and he's got 9 points. So it's respectable, half a point per game, but you need more from a guy who's supposed to be your number one center. He's getting close to 19 minutes of ice and over 3 minutes of power play time on ice every single game with 2 power play points. That, for me, is a big telling stat. You're getting all of this power play time this year, and you have 2 power play points. He has 20 penalty minutes, which is whatever. He's a -10. Again, take your plus minus that as it will. But this one, for me, is one that you need to see better from. He's at an 8% shooting percentage. His shots aren't dangerous. His chances aren't dangerous. And he's holding on to the puck for what? The play dies there. And that's just not what you want from Nazem Kadri. It's not what you need from Nazem Kadri. You need him to provide that offense, and you need him to be more aware in the offensive zone of maybe his line mates. Hey, there's Kuzmenko open, or let's drop it over here to Sharon Govich, or find the trailing defenseman on the play to finish these plays off. So very basic stats, but I think they paint a picture of Nazem Kadri just not being who Nazem Kadri is. And if you're going to get your offense going here, I think it's got to start with a guy who's getting the most minutes among your forwards at almost 19 minutes. He was leading your team in offensive power play time for your forwards at over 3 minutes a game. If you're going to give him those minutes, he needs to provide you with something here, and getting half a point a game, only 2 power play points over the course of an entire season thus far, abysmal shooting percentage. His shooting percentage is like 7% down from what it normally is in a season. It's just not good enough from Nazem Kadri. I expected a lot more from him. I still expect a lot more from him. And I'm hoping we see a resurgence like we saw last year after the first few games, where he really got on his horse and started digging in and working hard. I hope we see that Nazem Kadri again, because this Flame team is going to need him to be successful.
If him and Andrei Kuzmenko can get their game going, and they can be kind of the players that they were at the end of last season, or not even like quite that good, just guys who are going to produce in like that 60, 70 point range, which I think is a fair expectation of guys who are that talented. That completely changes the dynamic of the Calgary Flames moving forward. Mm-hmm. Those two guys, they're the 2 most talented forwards on the team. Those are the 2 guys that have to drive the offense, especially on the power play. Like you mentioned it, 2 power play points in 18 games for a guy as good as Nazem Kadri. Like that can't happen. That's not good enough. And this is a completely different hockey team if those two players can get their act together. And and
Mhm.
just to kind of talk a little bit more about Kadri, it's not just like the point production's down. Being on pace for 41 points for him is pretty bad. Like, I think that's some of the worst production of his entire NHL career.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the defensive side of the puck too. Like, you watch him play, it doesn't seem like he's that committed to it. In the D zone, like you said, he's a -10, and I think plus minus is a good stat when it's extreme on one end or the other.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the Flames stats, the next closest guy is Sharon Govich at -6, and then a bunch of other guys are like -2, -1. For Kadri to be a -10 is pretty damning. And then if you take a look at some of his defensive numbers at 5-on-5, I tweeted this out the other day. They're all either last, second last, or third last amongst Flames forwards this year. Like, the Flames routinely get outplayed when he's been on the ice this year, and that can't happen from a guy who's a big part of your leadership core, a guy who young players look up to, a guy who is he was your best player last season. You need more from the guy at both ends of the ice. And he had a slow start to the season last year, and he really picked it up. Maybe we're going to start to see kind of the same thing happen this year. Who knows? But man, if just to kind of sum it all up, if him and Kuzmenko can just find that spark again, this is a completely different hockey team. And if they continue to get the goaltending, they're committed to playing defense, and those two guys start scoring at the rate that we think they should, the Flames actually they'll be a good hockey team.
Yeah. And they got a winger as well with them that we could have easily put in this conversation too, with the Sharon Goj. I think he's getting a bit of a pass because of that injury. He's another guy who really needs to pick it up a little bit. Those guys can get it going and be a true, I don't even say number one line, be a second line to the backline line and provide this team with a little bit of offense. It's going to go a long way. And that seems to be the theme of this podcast today. Just get a little bit more offense. And this team is off and running, because where they're sitting right now, and you mentioned it to me on our rundown here, this is peak sadness territory here. This is a team that's barely in a playoff spot, but could be a lot higher up if they played a little bit better, but also just a little bit the other side. And this team is in that scary category of being in that 11th and 12th draft pick spot to give up that first draft pick over to Montreal as part of the Sean Monahan conditions. Where are you at with where this team's at right now? Because it's very close to being peak sadness, and that conversation of being that team once again in that mushy middle. Where are you at with this Flames team and where they're sitting in the standings so far, Robert?
There's part of me that it's such a difficult position for the fan base to be in, because as a fan, like, you want your team to win. You want to cheer for your team to win hockey games. It just feels wrong to cheer for losses. But at the same time, you take kind of a 10,000-foot view of this team, and you realize that they're not very good right now. And just, what is the point of this team gunning for a playoff spot when, if they do make it, they're going to run into a Dallas, a Colorado, a Winnipeg, Vegas, Edmonton? Quite honestly, they don't really stand a chance unless Dustin Wolf plays out of his mind and has 950 save percentage and a couple shutouts. That's the only way this team could ever win in the playoffs. So you just ask yourself, you're like, is it worth it? Is it worth gunning for that spot this year? Especially considering the fact that there's the whole Sean Monahan draft pick stipulation with Montreal. It's tough, man. Part of me is like, you know what? I can't control it. I'm just going to enjoy it and cheer for wins and all that kind of stuff. But then the other part of me is like, thinking critically about it, it makes absolutely no sense for this team to be going for it. But like, what are you supposed to ask of the group in the dressing room? Oh, don't try, tank. No, like, these guys are professionals. Yeah. They have a ton of pride. They're obviously not going to do that. They don't give a shit where they pick in the draft. That's up for Craig Conroy, but that's where Conroy might need to come in and be like, all right, we're trading Dan Vladar. We're going to move Rasmus Anderson for a haul. We're going to move out Kuzmenko. Maybe there's a couple other players in there. That's where Conroy, if he has the long-term vision in mind of, we want to get this team to become a Stanley Cup contender, he's going to have to make those really difficult decisions, and he's going to have to endure a little bit of pain. But overall, man, it does suck being in the mushy middle. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like it feels like if you're going to be in the mushy middle now, you're going to be there for a long time and you're never going to get out of it. I know there's all those people that say, "Oh, but then if you're going to tank, you're going to be Buffalo or you're going to be the Coyotes or something like that." But it's like if you have competent management, you're not going to be that. If you have dumb management and people that don't know what they're doing, then you will have that. Anyway, that's just a big rant and doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't really make a point there. It's tough, dude. Like it kind of sucks being in the middle.
I get both sides of this conversation. I see the war almost every Flames game on Twitter. X has become just this weird little thing. And I see both sides of the conversation. I understand both sides of this. No, I want this team to win. I want this team to be a playoff team. And I understand team tank. I understand both sides of it. What it comes down to is something that you mentioned there. It comes down to Craig Conroy. What is the vision of this team long term? What is the vision for this hockey team to be a perennial playoff team rather than a one-off? This reminds me of when the Flames hit 2014-15 season, where they had that anomaly of a season with really lots of good success, comeback wins, fun team. Hartley got the most out of his guys, and the Flames took that as okay, we're done here. Let's keep going with the going for the playoffs every year type of scenario rather than continuing to build. And I think that's where we're going to see a difference this year from the Flames. I think when you listen to Craig Conroy before this season and substantially any other interviews he's given since then, he's always talked about the same thing, and that is the long term of this team being successful. He likes his group. He likes how they're playing. He wants to be a playoff team for sure, but he also understands that there is a long-term goal in here for the Flames. And as a Flames fan, I hope that he continues down that path, continues down that road to that long-term goal, and doesn't short-sight this thing. Don't go out in 2 months and go trade to bring in another top four defenseman to help this team out. Instead, yeah.
Will he be allowed to do that?
You're going to beat me to the punch here. And I think he is. I think this time it feels a bit different for me because Craig Conroy continually has the same message. He's had the same message all last season. He's had the same message this season as well, that he is trying to build a team, trying to get his youth involved in this roster. He's trying to get this play in there. And I think he has the stones with him and Iginla to go to Murray Edwards and be like, hold on. This is just a little bit of success to start a season. This isn't what we're after. And I think that they have the cachet, being former players who took the Flames on their last big run, that they have the cachet with the owner being, listen, if you believe that we can get this job done, let us do this job. So I think he is going to be allowed to a point to go out there and not make the trade that you have seen in the past, to not go out and say, bring in Forborth and Gustafsson at the trade deadline just to have more depth defensemen. I think he's going to withstand making those moves to handicap his team, and he's going to allow this roster to play out these games as they are. And I think we're going to see regression to the norm from some of these goaltending numbers that we've seen. We're going to see some regression from defensive play, and I think we're going to see things are going to even out here. I don't know if this team is good enough to make the playoffs at the end of the day, which might further the conversation of the murky middle and the peak sadness in 12th spot, but whatever. That's a conversation for down the road here. But I think it is also a little too early to be worrying about where the Flames are drafting. We're 18 games into this season. There's still 60 games to go here, and a lot can happen in those 60 games. I think what we need to remember here is there is a goal in mind for Conroy, and he's done nothing but work towards making that goal a reality for the Calgary Flames, and have faith that he can continue to do so. And that's where I stand on it. I get both sides of the argument, but the belief has got to be in Conroy and the vision that he has for the Calgary Flames.
It's just tough just knowing the history of this owner to have an optimistic viewpoint that they're actually going to stick with this plan, because Edwards we don't know anything about him because he doesn't speak and nobody ever talks about him. But just kind of based off of what we've seen in his history as owner, he's very impatient. And if he sees that there's a little bit of success and that there's the potential to make up a little bit of a run in the playoffs, it seems like his orders are do everything you can to get this team in. There's never been a long-term vision with this man as owner. And that worries me because if you take a look at this team from like a macro view, they're clearly they're not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. They're not good enough to even compete in a first round of the playoffs. And then when you take a look at it in the years ahead, they're still missing an elite center. They're still missing elite high-end forwards. You know, we hope Zane Parek's going to be a number one D-man, but, you know, I don't know if he is because of the defensive issues. Like, we don't have like a Drew Doughty or we don't have a Duncan Keith kind of guy. Pretty much all the franchise has right now are like some good forwards, some good future top six forwards, but not elite. It looks like some good defensemen, but maybe not the top pairing or elite defenseman you need. And you have a really good goalie. It's just like you need over the next like 3 to 4 years, you have to round out this group with elite talent. And the only way to do that is through the draft. You can't find elite talent through trades. You can't find it through free agency. It just doesn't work. And you don't want to do it through offer sheets because you have to give up 1 million draft picks. So, and I hate being rebuild guy. I hate being team tank guy because it does get annoying because you're just like, trade everybody, bring in draft picks, lose. And I can understand why fans get pissed off hearing people in media and on social media saying that kind of stuff. But what do you want in Calgary is, I guess, what I would ask those fans. What do you want? Do you just want a mediocre team that doesn't really have much star power, that continues to be in the mushy middle, make the playoffs, miss? When you do make it, you don't go on a run? Or do you want to legitimately build a cup contender? And if you want to build a cup contender, it takes time and it takes a lot of draft picks and it takes, you know, competent management and smart decision making and most of all, patience. And when I think of Murray Edwards, I think the last word I would ever use to describe him is patient. So it's a really interesting conundrum to be in. I want to trust Craig Conroy. I want to trust that Dave Nonis has a kind of a long-term outlook. You know, you hope Don Maloney has that long-term outlook, but at the same time, man, those guys aren't the decision makers. It's Murray. Murray's the guy that makes all the decisions with the Calgary Flames. And it's not, I'm not talking player personnel or anything, but it's directive. It's Craig, you're in a wild card spot. It's March 1st. You're in a wild card spot. I want you to make the playoffs. Go make a trade. You know, he's the ultimate decision maker. So it's a really interesting discussion, and I want to trust this organization to do the right things long term. But based off their past, man, I have a hard time doing that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. It's absolutely fair to have that train of thought, and I get why people think that as well. And it's hard to have faith in an organization that continually falls over themselves time and time again. Something feels a little different for me personally with Craig Conroy at the helm than I felt with Treliving or the guys before Treliving, especially Jay Feaster. It feels a little different on the team right now. It really does. You have a coach who's willing to teach these kids, willing to teach these lessons. They're not really worried about guys who don't want to be in this town or play for the Flames to get them out of here. They get guys that want to be here, and that, I think, makes it a little bit different of an organization here. I really am hoping that what I'm feeling with Craig Conroy and again living in the organization is what's actually happening, where they're just saying, hold on, give me a minute. And don't blow your kneecaps off just to help yourself out a little bit here. Just absolutely have your patience. And I implore Murray, he's never going to listen to this. I don't care. I just implore Murray Edwards, like, stay in Switzerland and let the guys in Calgary run the team that's in Calgary and bring you the success. We know you want the money. We know he wants the revenue. But would you rather have sustained long-term revenue or just a little bit each and every year? And I know as a business guy, they want to see each quarter be better than the last quarter. They don't want to take steps back, but sometimes taking a small step back gives you longer-term success. In my paying job, we work with contracts, and I always argue with my manager where it's like, listen, you could have the money right now and I'll get you the money right now out of this contract, or we could take a small step back and get 5 more years out of this contract by doing certain small things for this customer, and allows you to have longer term revenue with this team. and he always fights me on it for some reason, and I never got it. Never ever got why people don't look at a little bit longer term when it comes to those kind of things. I get you want to make the money and you want to have a good quarter, but look long term and look for the long term success, and that's where the Flames are at right now. We could have short term success. This could be 2015 all over again. The Flames get into the playoffs, get a successful matchup, win around, and then get absolutely smoked by the Anaheim Ducks. It could happen, or you could just play the season out with the guys you have and continually build a foundation, get your draft picks, and bring more guys in here that are going to allow you to build a longer-term successful franchise. That's the hope. That's the goal. And regardless of what side of the conversation you were on, I think at the end of the day, you want to see a fun product on ice. And you only do that, as you mentioned, Robert, through the draft. And so we'll see what the Flames do here. But they definitely need to build through the draft to continue to build this hockey team to where they want to get it to.
Yeah, and like if you're a fan, like don't you want to watch elite NHL players on your team? Like don't you want to watch your Gaudreaus and your Kachucks? Like that's like the most fun part about being a hockey fan is having those star players in your market who put on a show night in and night out for you. And
look how happy San Jose fans are with Celebrini right now, or Hawk fans are with Bedard right now. Brand new first overall draft picks coming in here and providing a whole bunch of excitement for that organization. That's what the Flames are. The Flames are absolutely missing that. Imagine in a couple years if they get McKenna, how awesome it would be to watch him skate out there in his 72 jersey, whatever number he picks, and how exciting that would be in a brand new rink that we're building in Calgary and providing just a little bit more of a spark to this organization. How do you not want that along with the wins? You want excitement.
Yeah, and don't you want a Landon Dupont here? You know, yes. Like don't you want those guys? And like the only way to do that is by rebuilding and tanking a little bit. You're not going to find those guys at 8th to 13th overall every year. It's just not going to happen.
And you can still be a good product while you tank. You don't have to be what San Jose is while you tank. You go watch Chicago right now as a rebuilding, and they're actually not a bad team to watch because there's excitement there. Yes, they have Bedard, but they have other young prospects and kids coming up and playing. That last kid on the back end provides some funness in a hockey game. You watch Reichel play for them. So you can have fun while you kind of rebuild your roster and you have exciting teams to watch. You don't have to be this dead to rights team that's just a slog every night. You can still provide a product here, but at the end of the day, it's all about getting in positions to draft your stars here. Yes, Edmonton got 4 cracks at getting McDavid before they got it together, but they also have Leon Draisaitl, who they got really high in the draft. They also have Nugent Hopkins, who they got really high in the draft. And you can argue that's a really good three-headed monster they have up north there. Don't have to be awful and tank and be the worst team in the world to watch. You can do both, and it's hard to do both, of course, but you can have a product that allows you to be successful now, but also build towards the future. And I think that's a fine line. And I just would like to see the Flames don't give up on a season. Don't just throw it out for the sake of throwing it out to get a high draft pick, but provide a fun game on ice for the fans to watch whilst rebuilding. And you can do both here. It's not hard to do. You watch guys like Zari and Wolf and Coronado. They're fun to watch, but they're just not good enough to win playoff rounds. And I think that's where we're sitting here.
Yeah. You know, I mean, yeah, we've been on the recording here for a while, so maybe we should wrap up. But one of these episodes, we should have kind of like a longer term outlook on the Flames. I think people would find that really interesting. Like, kind of project where they're going to be at over the next like 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and kind of maybe do a deep dive into that. We should make note of that and do that one of these episodes. I think that'd be fun.
I think so too. We'll wrap it up here. Send us your ideas though if you're on social media. Talk to Robert and I, and what do you want? Are you team tank? Are you team let's win now? Are you in the middle somewhere? Where do you fall in the conversation? Throw it in the comments on our social medias. You can find me at VintageJohnny84 across social media. Find the show at Red Mile Rundown on the same platforms. And Robert, he is Ring of Fire CGY on social media everywhere. Robert, before we sign off here today, what's coming up on flamesnation.ca for you, and where can folks find you besides just Twitter there?
Just follow me on X at Ring of Fire CGY, and then don't have any immediate ideas right now for an article. I'm going to try to brainstorm a couple things for the next week here, but yeah, just follow all my articles at flamesnation.ca and all that kind of good stuff.
This hour and a bit has just absolutely flown by. We appreciate
it. Really has.
You guys, appreciate you sticking with us for all the downloads, all the retweets. You probably hear my dogs in the background now. Thank you for that, dogs. Kids are home from school. So we will get going here. Appreciate you all. Don't forget to follow the show across whatever platform you get your podcast from: Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Also on YouTube, leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. We appreciate all of you for all of the downloads and conversation. We will talk to you next week on the show, right here on